Tula tu, tula baba, tula sana, tula tu, tula baba. Christ was cradled in Africa. Bethlehem gave birth to him, but African sounds would be his lullaby. It was in Africa that he learned to sit. It was in Africa that Jesus had his first playmates. Here upon the soil of this soil I now stand. Here he first crawled and walked. Here would be the place the word would speak his very first words. It was in Africa. He never went to Europe. Europe took Christ back to Africa. When Africa had forgotten the songs she sang to him. Africa forgot, but he would not forget Africa. He made the Queen of Sheba one of his judges to judge those who would reject him, because it was the Queen of Sheba who sought for this wisdom and found it on Solomon's lips. At birth, Africa was a place of his refuge. At death, Africa carried his cross in the face of the black man called Simon. In resurrection, he sent Philip by his Spirit to tell the good news to the Ethiopian so that he would understand the scriptures, so that Africa would be saved. He is not slow to act. He is patient. Africa will sing to him again. Africa will call to him in one voice. I'll end there. And the reason I thought of that poem when I was thinking of this topic is because often, especially when we're working with the decolonization concept, people often think Christ does not belong to us, but is a foreign being that came through the ocean. But actually, the entire Bible, really, for me, largely happens if we reject those stories, we're largely rejecting our own history. Because even if you go back to the Miriams and the Moses and all of those people, the 12 tribes, they were all born out of Africa. And for 400 years, that's where they were. And so what did they look like? And so for me, when we're speaking about this reconstruction, it's someone earlier mentioned that it's about, it's the current form of church itself actually needs to die, that we cannot save it, and it cannot be reconstructed, and shouldn't be, because we are reconstructing something that we shouldn't have. Jamal spoke a couple of days ago about how he grew up here, I think in a community that he described that actually sounded very similar to how I grew up in my village, in how church was approached, where it was community, it was family, it didn't matter what you looked like. And of course there was a difference between if you went to an Anglican or you went to a Methodist church. There, they would follow your regular, a man in front, etc., etc. But there's also spiritual churches that were kind of formed by, in a more African kind of way. And in an African context, it's normal for a woman to lead. And so there you have a woman. I remember a church my grandmother went to that I would, go with her. I don't even think the church had a name, quite frankly, kind of attended two churches, the Methodist on Sunday and then that one during the week. And there you had a woman who was leading, and it's, whether you have something like a sangoma or whatever, it's normal for a woman to embody spirituality, and even a child. If we look at the historical story that is a tragedy, really, in my culture, of the story of Nongqawuse during the time of the British, when the British came to fight against the Xhosa people in particular, which was the the longest war actually in Africa against the British colonizers for 100 years. And the British managed to win it by using a child who then said they saw the ancestors and, you know, people must kill their cattle. And now you think, why would people believe that, you know, from a child? And it's because traditionally, it's the person, it's the spirit that's operating through the person. So it's about recognizing, if you're recognizing well, of course, in the case of so my people completely failed, is to recognize the person who's carrying, the body that's carrying the message, or even in a case of Imbongi. Imbongi is a praise singer. It's almost like the Old Testament prophet, really, and is seen as somebody. It can be anyone. It doesn't have to be a man. It's believed that the spirit embodies the person, and the person then has a message, and that person can interrupt the king. That person can interrupt anyone.